Hello, class. I would like to go through the code we worked on today. Where is it? Here it is. Without maybe giving you everything, but there's a lot of big questions out there, so I want to kind of address this a little bit. I think this is a good time for this. So let's see. This is what I want to do. All right. So you can see, what can you see? So let's say this right here, right? Let's say I have a line here which says public class about me, so I changed the name of it. But so let's read. Oh wait, sorry. I want to rename it. File. It's called about me. Oh, I already have something called about me? Oh, I do. All right, let's call it about you. All right. Okay, so here's what I'm trying to say. What does line 3 do? What does line 3 do? And it may seem like it doesn't do anything, it just sort of has to be there, but it kind of does do something, right? And what it does is it lets Java know that we are going to create an about me object, or about you in this case, I guess. So we're going to create an about you object. Okay, so that's not for nothing, right? That's not for nothing. So we're going to create an about you object. So in this particular problem, we had 3 private instance fields. So more about private later, but one was called name, one was called school, the school you go to, and one is called age, right? Okay, so 3 private instance fields. So what is that? What did those lines 2, 5, 6, and 7 do? Well, it tells Java that this about you object is going to have 3 pieces of information attached to it, right? One is the name, one is the school, and one is the age. You know what I'm saying? Okay. All right. So that's what lines 5, 6, and 7 do. It's just okay. This is what we know. We have an about you object, that there are 3 fields, 3 essentially pieces of information that are going to be attached to every about you object, right? They don't have any values right now. I think the default values for strings are null, and the default value for age is 0. So you could actually probably get away with this because they sort of have these default values, but that's why we have a constructor, right? And the look of our constructor, special method, you do not need to say what you're going to return. There is no return, right? Possible for the constructor. Now, you have a choice about how many parameters you're going to put in there, right? So I'm going to say the first string represents the name, right, of or your name, I guess. And the next one is your school, and the next one is your age, right? Now I'm just using these letters here. The reason I'm using these letters is so that maybe I can make a distinction about, or the difference between the parameters being used versus the fields themselves. Okay, so that could be a big idea. So what's happening here with this? First of all, the constructor method gets called every time you create an object, right? Every time you create a new object, this constructor is going to be called. and meaning this method's going to be run, right? Which means that the three values that the user gives us, whatever they give us in the first string, the second string, and then the integer, are going to be bound to the object, right? So yeah, so now it kind of becomes one of these things where I'm going to say this guy is going to become equal to n, right? This guy is going to become equal to s, and then this guy is going to become equal to, oh, I'm sorry, I messed this up. No, this is a, right? This is n, and this is s. Now, how do you know? Well, it's the order, right? The user has to give us these things in order, and so the first thing they give us is going to be n, is going to be attached to name. Second thing they give us is going to be the s, is going to be attached to school. Third thing they give us is going to be the a, is going to be attached to age, right? There's the order they give us these things matters. Now, it is convention sometimes to call these. I mean, you know, n is not very descriptive, s is not very descriptive, a is not very descriptive. So a lot of times it's convention to call this name, right, for what it represents. Call this school. Call this age, right? But now we have a problem, right? And the problem is, you know, how we distinguish between the parameter being given to us and the field itself, right? The class field itself. So the way to get over that is to say that the field is this dot name. The field is this dot school. The field is this dot age, and that distinguishes the difference between. What it really does is it distinguishes the difference between these things here. Oh, what just happened? What just happened? Oh, I think I lost my whole picture. Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, it distinguishes between the fields, which are the things that were like I originally drew that were connected to the about you object, right? And the parameters, the thing being given to us when we create the object. So just to show you real quick, like, did I not have a public static void main? I did. So we have a public static void main, right? Down here. Okay. Based on what we have so far, oh, I didn't have that closing. Okay. Based on what we have so far, I can create an about you object, right? So to create I create an about you variable first, and then I create a new about you object here, and I have to give it 3 arguments, right? The first is the name, right? The next is the name of the school, and the next is the age. So when you see this, maybe this makes a little more sense, but Fred, right, is passed into this string name argument, right? So what happens is the name that you're talking about here in terms of the, and you can see this is really nice too, that Eclipse is essentially highlighting things. They're showing you the link between the parameter passed in and then where it is in the definition, right? The method definition down here. And age is linking up with the age over here, right? That's different than school, right? You can see how school here attaches to school here, right? So you can see that relationship, right? And a lot of questions about like this dot notation, and it's just like convention. It's just like this is a special word. You can tell it's purple. It's a convention. It just refers to the object that you are defining in the class. It refers to the object itself, right? And so you know, some people made variables called name. So make a variable called name down here. This is maybe a good illustration also. But I make a variable called name here, and this is you know, Stacy or something, right? Okay. Notice that when I highlight this name, right, these guys are referring to the same thing. this name is not referring to the name which is attached to the about you object. Okay. Neither is it referring to the name which is used as an argument for the about you method, right? As a parameter for the about you method, right? So you can get yourself in trouble by using the same variable names a lot of different places. And one way to avoid the confusion is to not use the same name repeatedly. Sometimes it seems to make sense. I mean, a lot of times in the parameter, you will see this convention here where the names are the same as the fields, and then you just overcome that by saying this dot. You can also get around it other ways. And then this name here is totally separate, right? It's a local variable to the main method. It does not reference the names up here. It's its own thing. So we have three separate variables called name, right? Or working right now. And so the question would be, well, now that you're down here in the main method, how do you refer to the name that is attached to the object, right? How do you refer to the name that's attached to the object? Well, you could get to it by saying the name of the object dot the field, dot name. Now this is, again, this is very simple. This is not like best practice. This is like, we'll talk about ways to get around this, sort of violation of conventional coding or whatever. But I'm just wanting to show you that the object has that information attached to it, right? That object has the information attached to it. And so if you print this out, you can see that we were able to access that information by referencing the object, right? By saying, here, like, tell me what the, value is attached to that field. So here is the thing. So people in the, I saw some people in their methods here, they would say like public string my name, right? And they wanted to return the value of my name. And I saw this actually really interesting. I only saw one person do this, but they thought to themselves, well, I need to have the information of the object in order to reference the values associated with the object, right? And so someone did something like this, and so they said about you, whatever. Whatever. And then they said, okay, so now if I had that object, so if I pass in the object, I could just return a name, right? Okay. So it's really an interesting way to think about it. Like, okay, I need to, if I have the object, then I can reference the values attached to the object, right? It's kind of what we're seeing down here. If you have the object, you can reference the fields attached to it, right? And so this person thought, okay, well, I'll pass in the about you object, and then I can reference the field attached to it, right? That's logical. It's really good thinking. But what I will say is that you already have it. So I mean, yeah, if that was the case, right? And this could actually work, right? This person actually did it like this. What you'd have to pass in here, to call the my name method, you'd have to say something like you dot my name, right? And then pass in you. Kind of interesting, right? But this is actually probably a really good example of why this is not necessary, right? Because what this person is saying is you need the about you object. You need to have that passed in order to access the the field, right? Well, what is calling the method in the first place, right? The object itself is calling the method in the first place. So the object itself has access to the information in the object itself. I mean, it has access to the fields in itself, right? So you wouldn't have to pass itself in. It would be, that information would be available because you are in the object already, right? So a couple ways to think of it. One way to think of it is this.name. And like I was telling Gonzalez, like that's why I like it, because it's showing, like, this construction is showing me I'm talking about the field attached to the about you object, right? When I'm in the class definition, the about you object is going to be referenced by the keyword this. It is the about you object that I am defining and describing is referenced by this. So if I say this.name, it is the field name which is attached to the object, right? Then Gonzalez said, well, I mean, if you're in the class definition, I mean, everything is referring to the class. So name, the variable name or field name is referring to the about you field name. So that's kind of redundant. Like you don't need this, and that is true also. Like if you just return name, you would see that it is referring to essentially this.name. Like all these references there are the same. So you can kind of see, it highlighted, right? So again, it's a lot of language. It's a lot of, maybe seems a lot of circular thinking. But hopefully that provided a little clarification. I'll try to watch this again, make sure that it didn't get too crazy. But anyways, I thought that was something that maybe could use some clarification after today, right? And then again, we're very early in this whole thing. I mean, this is like the second week, and I would argue it's really not until we're done with like the 5th unit. We're actually in the 2nd unit already, but it's not really until we're done until the 5th unit that you really are supposed to have like a super strong command of all these ideas, right? And I better been a recording. Is that a recording?